So before this video starts, I just want to make one thing very clear. I am not a game designer. In fact, at the time of recording this intro, I've never even so much as opened game design software. But what I am is bored, and so over the last 2 years or so, I've been kind of subconsciously collecting ideas for my biggest project ever. One that will take thousands of hours of learning, working, and most probably crying. Now, if there's one thing I think we can agree everyone universally loves, it's games. More specifically, video games. Like, genuinely, you could go into like a monastery in the middle of Switzerland or something, and at least one person in there has played Fortnite. Now, there's always been one genre of video games that I've never really seen much of, at least not in a professionally made way, and that is a game set in someone's school time, around 14, 15 years old or so. And I think it's been rinsed the shit out of in movies, sure, but a video game, that not so much. And casually thinking about this piqued my interest slightly. You know, what if there was a video game with a kid, someone who... Okay, I don't want to give too much away. All I can say is that it's got such a good game mechanic in the works. Look, there's nothing really to show. Haven't finished the animation, haven't finished the story. The truth is, the only thing I have finished is the project title. So here's where the video actually gets interesting. I've broken it down into a few main stages of things we need to learn, then do, then finalize. These stages include brainstorm ideas, find game setting, build basic model, build terrain, texture, build advanced models, create metahumans, learn motion capture, learn animation, learn cutscene and menu making, write a script, record voice actors, animate characters, add cutscene, make final touches, and publish. So first I need to brainstorm ideas for a storyline, characters, how they all fit in with each other. Most of that work I've already done over the last 2 years or so, like I said. So then we need to find a location to set this all up in. And I figured, fuck it, why not my old school? I humbly present my old school, which I won't name for legal reasons. Now, I don't know much about copyright law of buildings like this, and if I can actually make an exact replica. I've done a bunch of research and nothing has really helped. So if anyone can link to any articles or just anything that would be useful, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so story idea done, location done. Next, I need to actually learn how to make my ideas come to life. Now, I couldn't exactly just steal the blueprints for the school off the internet. Believe me, I tried. So instead, I borrowed some of Google's photogrammetry data to use as a template. Sorry, Google. I then decided to use Unreal Engine just because, you know, ray tracing, Lumen, nanite, metahumans, the list goes on. And after about 30 minutes of watching a tutorial, I figured out how to move, rotate, scale, copy, and paste. And I figured I basically knew all there was to know. So then I imported the model, textureless obviously. I'd rather not fry my computer for no good reason. And after that, I placed my first plane, and it pretty much skyrocketed from there. Over the last week, I spent about 8 hours a day just copying and pasting planes around a 3D model. Much harder than it sounds, by the way. And after watching about 5 Adam Sandler movies in the background, I'd finally gotten to a point where it was starting to look not shit. So next I knew I needed to do the landscaping. Now, I thought I could cheat and just use the Google 3D model I put the flat plains around as terrain, since it was already kind of height mapped. But of course that doesn't work, mainly because the file I had was an FBX when it needed to be a, I don't know, fucking like height map shit or something, and converting the file made no difference even after hours of trying on different softwares. So I was back to square one. I learned how to create a flat terrain, then started extruding, flattening, and eroding depending on the once again copied Google model. Before long, I was basically ready to stop relying on the Google data and learn how to roughly texture the terrain and buildings. Now, one problem I found when texturing was that the textures would stretch and warp whenever I made like a custom shape. Now, since literally my entire 30-ish hours of work so far had been making custom shapes, this was understandably a bit frustrating. I found out the way to fix this was by unwrapping the UVs, except that only worked on things made in the modeling tab, i.e. cubes. Planes, however, were in the default shape tab, something very, very different. Any texture I put on it would look shocking. And the bad news continued for the landscape as well. I couldn't figure out how to paint a texture on. And since I'd used just one landscape across the game, painting it all one colour wasn't an option. So after doing a bit of research on both my problems, I finally figured out that with a little editing of a custom material I made, I could connect textures to it, which allowed me to connect that custom material to the landscape I created and paint with all the textures that I connected to the custom material. Confusing, I know. I also realised that if I did a little poly editing of the cubes in the modelling menu, I could technically create anything I wanted, and that's exactly what I did. Soon enough, all the roofs were done, and things were really starting to come together. But then disaster struck. As if by magic, Unreal Engine suddenly 5 hours of work was gone. I think what was most frustrating about this wasn't even that I had lost my work, it was that I had saved it religiously and it didn't actually save. This is because I was pressing Control S, the shortcut for saving a map, when I actually needed to be pressing Control Shift S to save all of my work. The level, the map, the models. So while I thought my work was perfectly safe, it in fact wasn't. I slept on it, and the next day I came back to it, redid all the work I'd lost, and quickly came back to where I'd lost it. And that basically takes me up to where I am now. I'll be working on this as much as I can, but if you do want to support the project, the best way you can do that is genuinely just sharing this video so as many people can see it as possible, to help give suggestions, advice, maybe a little help, just to make this process so much smoother and quicker. As I said earlier, I am not a game designer. Any support is appreciated, and when I'm in the process of getting voice actors, I will be putting out a small little application form thingy where you can all get involved and say a few voice lines, and who knows, you might hear yourself in game. Till the next video, everyone.